General Hospital spoilers tease that the coming days at Port Charles will erupt with betrayal, revelations, and heart-stopping confrontations as alliances fracture and long-buried secrets claw their way to the surface. From May 5 through May 16, the Corinthos clan, their closest allies, and even unexpected adversaries will find themselves ensnared in webs of suspicion, rage, and revenge. In the first of two expansive acts, we'll witness Drew Kane's shocking realization that someone close to him has sabotaged his mind and body, Nina Reeves's secret poison ploy unraveling, a heartbroken Willow racing toward the truth, and more. Then, as the second half unfolds, Cody Bell's frantic call to Dante Falconeri ignites a bonfire brawl, Sasha Gilmore unleashes scathing judgment on Willow, and Jocelyn Jax's academic gambit against Emma Scorpio Drake threatens to upend friendships. Each moment is meticulously crafted, each emotion laid bare, and every scene pulses with the kind of high-stakes drama only General Hospital can deliver. From the very moment Drew Kane awakens in that sterile examination room, rubbing the back of his skull and trying to piece together why his mind feels foggy, viewers will feel the panic clawing at his nerves. He's always known power plays and underhanded tactics in Port Charles, but discovering that ketamine, an anesthetic far beyond a casual sedative, flowed through his veins turns paranoia into conviction. Drew's instincts sharpen, and he begins to suspect one of the town's grand dames, Tracy Quartermain. After all, she has the resources, the access, and the ruthless reputation to pull off such a dirty trick. As Drew pores through lab reports, blood work, and security footage, we see the wheels grind in his mind. Each piece of evidence that points toward Tracy is counterbalanced by the nagging thought that he could be missing something. His face, lit by the cold glow of a computer screen, reveals a man hurt not only in body but in soul, questioning the loyalty of those he once trusted implicitly. Meanwhile, behind closed doors, Nina Reeves wages a very different war against her conscience. She was the one to slip the ketamine into Drew's fore, an act born of desperation, jealousy, and perhaps a twisted sense of loyalty to someone else. As the secret poisoner, Nina has been riding the edge of her own guilt, convinced that taking Drew out of commission would somehow secure Willow's affections or protect her own interests in Sunny's empire. Yet as she watches Willow's steadfast faith in Drew, even after she learns he's been drugged, Nina's twisted rationale begins to unravel. Flashbacks show Nina's trembling hand hovering over the syringe, the cold grip of fear in her bones as she committed the crime. In solitary moments in her opulent apartment, tears glisten in her eyes as she admits to herself that her plot was utter folly, that hurting Drew has not brought her closer to anyone she cares for. Portia Robinson, caught in the aftermath of Nina's scheme by virtue of being an accomplice, albeit unwillingly, shares in that guilt. The bond between Nina and Portia, once forged in sisterhood, now threatens to snap as both women wonder if their roles in the ketamine catastrophe will land them behind bars. Inevitably, Willow Corinthos steps into the eye of the storm. In the corridor outside the hospital lab, she confronts Portia with unwavering determination. The sterile walls reverberate with her words as she demands to know how the anesthetic that nearly killed Drew could have originated from General Hospital's very own supply. Portia, panic surging like heat through her veins, tries to explain it was a mistake, a mix-up, that she never meant anyone harm, yet Willow's eyes flash with betrayal. She's watched the man she loves struggle through the haze of unknowing, and the realization that someone in his inner circle has betrayed him cuts deeper than any blade. Willow's voice cracks as she promises Portia that she will find out the truth, that no lie will stand between her and justice for Drew. This confrontation sets in motion a chain reaction. Portia's husband, Curtis Ashford, discovers his wife's anxious phone calls, overhears fragments of conversations about ketamine, and demands answers. In the privacy of their home, Curtis, who has always believed in acting with integrity, faces his wife and her friend. He cannot fathom that Portia and Nina would stoop to poisoning a man he once saved, and yet the evidence is mounting. Curtis's sense of betrayal is palpable. He thought Drew was the villain in this scenario, but now finds himself wrestling with the possibility that the real dirty work was done by the women he trusted most. Amidst this escalating turmoil, Brad Cooper lurks in the shadows, wrestling with his own ambitions and demons. Having clawed his way back into the Cooper family fold, Brad now gazes across his opulent living room at a portrait of his aunt, Selena Wu, the very matriarch he underestimates. In whispered soliloquies, Brad contemplates a future far darker than his current facade of a mild-mannered tech executive. He envisions himself rising to power, usurping Selena's control of the Wu conglomerate, and leaving behind the jittery insecurities that have plagued him ever since his brain injury. Though the idea of brandishing a weapon is years away, for Brad lacks the ruthlessness and combat skills of a true gangster, he is determined to begin his ascent by sowing discord, leveraging insider knowledge, and perhaps blackmail. His hands tremble as he scrolls through Selena's encrypted files on his tablet, imagining the leverage he'll hold once he has the upper hand. The seeds of villainy are planted, even if their full bloom is still a distant dream. On the other side of town, Christina Corinthos Davis experiences a different shift in dynamics. After a heated confrontation with her mother, Alexis Davis, Christina has reached an emotional equilibrium. The fiery teen, once prone to explosive outbursts, now surprises her mother by remaining calm, almost clinical, as Alexis pours out a confession: she's been blackmailed by Ava Jerome. Alexis recounts in a trembling voice how Ava, leveraging secrets Alexis thought safely buried, threatened to expose her if she didn't comply with some clandestine demands. It's a gamble Alexis now regrets, a dangerous proposition that binds mother and daughter in mutual peril. But Christina, ever the fierce protector of her family, feels a familiar stirring of rage. Her eyes, cool and calculating, promise that she will not stand idly by while Ava manipulates her mother. Though Christina treads carefully, her thoughts darken with visions of retribution, perhaps even murder. In her bedroom, with the glow of the moon casting stark shadows on her walls, Christina sharpens her resolve: she will track down Ava, confront her, and, if necessary, eliminate the threat once and for all. While these power plays rage at home, Michael Corinthos embarks on his own quest for the truth. Hundreds of miles away in Germany, Michael struggles with guilt over the perception that he declined Willow's requests to see him, when in fact he has never refused. His phone buzzes with unanswered messages, and at last, he dials Jason Morgan. On the line, the air between father and son crackles with unspoken history. Michael's voice is a soft confession: he's hurt, he feels cast aside, and he doesn't understand why someone would want to sabotage his relationships. Jason responds with the measured calm that's become his trademark. He recounts the progress of his investigation into Sonny's attacker in Los Angeles, promising that once that mystery is solved, he'll shift his focus to the person who has been interfering in Michael's life. Then Michael drops a bombshell: he has reason to believe that Morgan Corinthos, the son presumed lost to the void, might still be alive, and that someone in Germany has seen him. Jason, caught off guard, promises to board the next flight to Frankfurt without hesitation. The scene cuts between Michael's tense expression and Jason hastily packing a duffel bag in his modest apartment back in Port Charles. The promise of reunion, or confrontation, with Morgan Corinthos looms large as this storyline hurtles toward a collision. Just as Michael and Jason prepare for a transatlantic showdown, Sasha Gilmore wheels into Port Charles like a storm front. She corners Willow outside Kelly's diner, her voice laced with scorn, and accuses her former friend of abject foolishness. "You're letting Drew manipulate you," Sasha spits, her words sharp as shattered glass. "He's a controlling, deceitful man who beds other women and lies about it. And you, sweet, naive Willow, are letting him walk all over you." The tension crackles as onlookers at Kelly's crane their necks, sensing the fireworks. Willow, her jaw clenched, retorts that Sasha has no right to judge her relationship. But Sasha presses on, laying bare pieces of Drew's cheating, his lies about his missions, and the fresh wound of his recent sedation. Though Willow's defense is fierce, Sasha's words linger in the air, sowing seeds of self-doubt in the young woman's mind. Meanwhile, in another quarter of town, a desperate phone call fractures the relative calm. Cody Bell, voice trembling with fear, dials Dante Falconeri and blurts out, "It's Rocco, something's happened at the bonfire." Dante, on the verge of leaving for a shift at the PCPD, freezes, heart-lurching as he demands more details. Cody explains that Gio Palmieri invited Rocco to a late-night campfire gathering, and something went terribly wrong. Dante races to the scene, an abandoned campsite just outside Port Charles, only to see Rocco huddled in a trembling embrace with Lois Cerullo. Fury erupts in Dante's chest as he spots Gio lounging by the flickering flames, guitar in hand. In a moment of unthinking rage, Dante lunges at Gio, fists flying, before Lois and Cody separate them. Gio protests that he invited Danny Morgan, not Rocco, insisting the real culprit behind the chaos is Danny, the young man with his own tangled ties to Jason Morgan. At that moment, Jason himself arrives, drawn by news of Dante's vigilante rage. His stern presence momentarily stills the crowd as he ushers Danny aside for a private reprimand. Lois hovers, fanning the embers of tension, worried that Dante and Gio will discover their true familial bond and that the emerging truth could shatter them all. As the dust begins to settle on this explosive encounter, university rivalries ignite back on campus. Jocelyn Jacks has just orchestrated the cancellation of Emma Scorpio Drake's major assignment, a move so audacious that it ricochets through the halls of Deception University. In the student lounge, Emma confronts Joss with icy politeness, demanding to know how Jocelyn pulled off such a coup. Jocelyn, confident and composed, reveals that she leveraged her extensive network among the faculty to claim undue advantage, twisting administrative protocols to force Emma's hand. Emma's eyes narrow as she realizes the full scope of Jocelyn's scheme. Words are traded, veiled threats, biting compliments. And by the time Emma storms off, the tension between them crackles like high-voltage wires ready to snap. As the second week unfolds, Drew Kane's investigation takes a dangerous, close-quarters turn. Certain that someone in his life has drugged him, Drew covertly surveils Tracy Quartermain's mansion, staking out her garage and poring through security footage lifted from the family's cameras. Each night, he spots the flicker of movement in the Quartermain courtyard, the silhouette of a woman hurrying across marble floors. Yet the more clues he gathers, the more the trail seems to vanish into thin air. Viewers feel his frustration mounting, every lead dissolves, every hunch meets a dead end. It isn't until a chance observation, Tracy's distinctive sapphire ring glinting in hallway video, that Drew's suspicions reach fever pitch. But when he confronts Tracy face-to-face in her opulent drawing room, she denies involvement with icy resolve, pointing the finger subtly at Portia's lab access. The power dynamic crackles as Drew stands toe-to-toe with one of Port Charles's most formidable matriarchs, delivering a threat that hints at ruin if she doesn't confess her role in his near-fatal poisoning. Back in the tangled web of guilt, Nina Reeves finds herself cornered by both conscience and the law. The hospital board has launched an internal review, Portia's fingerprints are on tampered records, and clear evidence points toward the ketamine's disappearance. In an anguished confession to Portia, Nina admits that she orchestrated the entire scheme, that her jealousy of Willow and fear of losing control drove her to madness. Portia, tears streaming, begs Nina to come clean before the police step in. Their bond, once sisterly, now feels like razor wire, cutting deeper with every accusation hurled. As dawn breaks over Port Charles, Nina realizes she must face the consequences of her actions. Viewers watch as she hesitates over the phone in her high-rise kitchen, knuckles white against the receiver, and finally dials 911 to confess. The weight of what she's done crushes her posture, the screen fades on her trembling figure illuminated by early morning light. Across town, Brad Cooper's dark ambitions blossom into plotting. He begins forging alliances with lesser figures in the Wu organization, promising them promotions in exchange for loyalty once he assumes control. Over drinks at Crimson, Brad spins tales of unrest within the leadership, whispering that Selena's days are numbered. In a clandestine meeting in Kelly's back room, he exchanges encrypted thumb drives with a nervous associate, the contents of which could topple the Wu empire, or at least erode Selena's control. Brad's eyes gleam with a new confidence as he walks home late at night, imagining the headlines proclaiming his ascension. The path he walks is one of shadows, and though he lacks the firepower for outright violence, his mind is a weapon sharpened to a fine edge. Meanwhile, Christina's quest for vengeance against Ava Jerome gears up to a boiling point. Armed with Alexis's confession and her own simmering wrath, Christina tracks Ava to the Jerome estate. The confrontation is as tense as any hurricane. Christina's voice lilts between steel and sugar as she reminds Ava of her transgressions. Ava, ever the unflappable diva, laughs at the threat, claiming Christina could never harm a woman who practically raised her. But Christina reveals text messages, hidden recordings of blackmail discussions, laying bare Ava's duplicity for anyone to see. The power shifts in Christina's favor as Ava's facade crumbles. The daughter's final words, promises of ending this game forever, hang in the air as she stalks away, leaving Ava trembling in the aftermath. Halfway around the globe, Jason Morgan lands in Frankfurt, hastily gathering fragments of information from Michael. Together, they stake out a shabby safe house where a man matching Morgan Corinthos's description was spotted. Under the cloak of night, they watch as a lone figure emerges, limping slightly, features obscured by a hood. Jason's heart skips. Could this be the brother he thought gone forever? They follow the figure through narrow alleys, shadows looming, until the stranger ducks into a derelict warehouse. Jason and Michael exchange a look, guns drawn but voices hushed. "Morgan?" Jason calls out. The hooded figure pauses, then turns. The moonlight reveals a face they both know far too well. In that electrifying instant, son recognizes father, and father recognizes son, setting the stage for reunions, reckonings, and perhaps redemption. Back in Port Charles, Willow stumbles upon Sasha's words echoed through anonymous text messages. Late at night, alone in her loft, she scours her phone for clues that Sasha, the ever-vigilant friend-turned-accuser, might have orchestrated the leak. Yet as she digs deeper, she uncovers records of Drew's indiscretions, photos, overheard conversations, receipts for hotel rooms. Her heart twists as the evidence mounts against the man she's fought to protect. In a moment of shattering clarity, Willow realizes that forgiving Drew may have been the biggest mistake of her life. Tears mix with rain as she stands at the edge of the docks, the river's surface reflecting her fractured image. The scene is silent except for the lapping water and her ragged breaths, until a shadow appears behind her, and she whirls, prepared to confront the ultimate truth. Meanwhile, Dante Falconeri stands at the bonfire's smoldering remains, contending with both anger and confusion. Gio Palmieri, bruised but defiant, insists that Danny Morgan, not he, lured Rocco into danger. The truth unspools in Dante's mind as he pieces together Joe's explanation with what he's learned about Danny's escalating risks since discovering his lineage. Lois Cerullo, having rushed to Dante's side, pleads for calm, warning that exposing Danny indiscriminately could irreparably harm both families. Dante's badge feels heavier than ever, justice now feels murky, tangled in family loyalties and unspoken bonds. When Danny finally steps forward, face pale, guilt etched into every line, Dante sees in him the same vulnerability he's seen in his own children. Instead of cuffing the boy, Dante grips his shoulders and urges him to tell everything he knows. The confession that follows will send shockwaves through their tightly bound world. And then, on the Deception University campus, the rivalry between Jocelyn Jacks and Emma Scorpio Drake reaches its climax. In a packed lecture hall, Professor Stevens calls for Jocelyn's presentation on the socioeconomics of media conglomerates, the very assignment Emma's work was meant to fulfill. As Jocelyn strides to the podium, head held high, Emma intervenes, demanding an explanation for the procedural irregularities that led to Jocelyn being chosen over her. The audience, classmates, faculty, even a few press bloggers, leans in, breathless. Jocelyn's prepared answers falter under Emma's incisive questioning, and for a moment, she looks as rattled as any soap opera heroine. But then, with a sly smile, she unveils an obscure clause in the university handbook that she's hidden, one that grants the dean discretionary power in events of exceptional merit. The dean, seated in the front row, nods imperiously, leaving Emma and her supporters in stunned silence. As the final bell rings, the hall empties in shocked drizzle, students whispering about fairness, privilege, and whether Jocelyn's gambit will be precedent-setting. Over the span of these 12 days, Port Charles transforms into a pressure cooker of ambition, betrayal, and the enduring power of family ties. Drew's hunt for his saboteur brings him to unexpected confrontations, Nina's confession shatters her world, Brad Cooper's seeds of villainy promise dark times ahead, Christina's vendetta against Ava sizzles with lethal intent, Michael and Jason chase a phantom that could upend everything they know, Willow's faith in love is tested by harsh truths, Dante navigates the line between vengeance and compassion, and on campus, Jocelyn and Emma duel for both academic and moral high ground. By May 16, no one in Port Charles will emerge unscathed, new alliances will form in the rubble of old friendships, and those who once walked hand in hand will find themselves alone under stormy skies. The healing, the reckonings, and the choices these characters make will echo long after the final scene fades, ensuring that the echoes of this explosive fortnight resonate through every corner of General Hospital for weeks, months, and perhaps even years to come.